Hello and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. Tonight we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming diplomacy and reshaping global relations. When we look at AI, of course, this is now not a futuristic concept. We see its implications across the globe. With over $100 billion invested globally in AI technologies, and countries like US and China racing for advancement in AI technologies. Now this is about geopolitical power. In today's program, we will be discussing all these dimensions and how AI can be a game changer because when we look at its consequences and implications, it offers unprecedented data analytics as well as streamlining communication, which can be used for diplomacy. Tonight, we will be delving into all these dimensions of AI and also how AI can be inclusive, what are the ethical dimensions of utilization of artificial intelligence. We'll also be taking a look of the key takeaways of recently concluded AI Action Summit. To discuss this and more, we are joined online by AI expert, Mr. Irfan Malik, who is also a CEO of Zeven Solutions. Welcome to the program. We are also joined by another AI expert, Mr. Muhammad Ali Inayat, who is founder Compliance Machine AI. Welcome to the program. And we're also joined by former Ambassador Baluch. Welcome to the program. Mr. Irfan, let me start with you. Of course, when we look at this huge investment in AI technologies, that is $100 billion. How do you view these investments? And of course, how do you see the future of AI in this regard?
Thank you very much for having me here. Actually, AI is now becoming a power race. AI is far more dangerous than any nuclear development we have seen in the past. And any country who has got the resources are trying to put money into few components that is infrastructure, AI research, and talent acquisition. Anyone who have got these three components will definitely take advantage. And that is the one reason why people are spending crazily. Organizations, people, and countries are spending crazily into these three major components. And what we are going to talk about the summit is the only way we need to streamline everything. Otherwise, it is gonna cause serious disbalance, the power shift towards nations who are able to spend more money into these three components at this point in time, and it'll be very hard to create the balance afterward.
Right, Mr. Baluch, let me come to you. When we look at different predictions, they predict that by this year, 2025, over 50% of diplomatic tasks will be supported by AI in some manner, with specific functions such as predictive analytics or language translation. Do you believe this is going to be changing international relations? And also, how do you compare it to the era of diplomacy where there were, of course, formal letters and it would take a lot of time to communicate things, and now this is going towards streamlining communications and also its impact on public diplomacy aspect of it?
Thank you, Maryam. I think it's a very timely topic that you chose today. I think we should have done it much before. In fact, I wrote an article which is in my book a year back, and I had advocated in that we should now adopt what I call that time digital diplomacy. And I think the idea behind was that the AI era is right there. So I think what we'll be witnessing in the future will be digital diplomacy. But I think more importantly, what we have to see that it is as big a change globally as it was Industrial Revolution, followed by the nuclear, as one of our friends said it, and now is the era of AI technology, and that is going to even even determine the global relationships, because there are two choices in front of the international community. Either the AI can become a tool of greater good for the entire globe, or it can be converted into another weapon of mass destruction, a mad, as it was witnessed in Gaza, the use of AI in waging a war against like helpless people in Lebanon and in Gaza. So I think there's a choice to be made,
Right.
and it's very important that this summit has taken place. And now there is, while the two things have to move together. One is innovation; it must not be stopped. It is something which will never be stopped. It cannot be reversed. So what can happen is a collaborative effort to come up with a global framework through which the technologies are, for what the summit has said, it is supposed to be for the people and the planet, not against them. But if not regulated, if no collaboration and only
Right.
a
We will be
mad
talking
competition,
about the
it will be very
regulatory.
difficult to stop it from becoming a weapon of mass destruction. Yes, Maryam.
Right, we will be talking about those aspects later in the program. But now I want to discuss, Mr. G.R. Baluch, about the point you talked about, the significance of AI and digital diplomacy in a world where geopolitical dynamics and power dynamics are shifting each day and each moment. So how can AI-driven predictive analytics can help diplomats identify emerging conflicts and emerging conflict zones, because we have historical lessons from past crises, for example, Cuban Missile Crisis. And do you think some lessons can be learned from miscommunication, and now we can improve using digital diplomacy?
Definitely, I think the analytics tool that AI gives us, it can predict the behavior of the various actors. It can even replicate your negotiating strategies, what results will be there, and most of all, I think the patterns of behavior in terms of statements, and more than that is the analytics for the different data that comes from various sources that can be verified and that can be analyzed to really assess the danger from any rival country. So I think it can become a very good tool. And also, we must not forget that we are in an era where there's a whole battle of narratives going on. And in this battle of narratives, the key is the bias of the algorithm which are used for the AI. So we have to make sure that our people are equipped, our ministries are equipped. In fact, I had in my that article proposed that we should have a separate directorate which would be called as Directorate of Digital Diplomacy, and our diplomats have to be taught AI basic courses. In fact, we have these experts, and our Ministry of Foreign Affairs you should offer these courses for our diplomats as part of their training when they come in. And also, more than that, I think we need to uh, make sure that our narrative is not distorted. And because AI has a lot of influence, we've seen it, AI being used. In fact, at least there are accusations of one of the parties, like in big countries in Europe, in America, that some countries have used AI in actually impacting the public opinion. And public opinion is very, very important in terms of policy
Right,
making. So I think AI has to
right.
be mainstream into the conduct of diplomacy at all levels, multilateral as well as the bilateral. Yes, Maria.
Mr. Irfan, when we look at different forums, of course, one of the partnership is a global partnership on artificial intelligence that aims to promote AI, responsible rather, AI development worldwide. What role do you think Pakistan should play within this partnership with ethical AI practices,
See,
with
when we
so
are
much
talking
information
about
and
data
disinformation going on?
See, first we have to go a step back. When we are talking about data analytics, predictions, we need to talk about data acquisitions. We need to talk about the data protection. Actually, the race is the country spending more into AI, they have got more data, they have got more resources to train more model, get better results and everything. Race starts from the data actually. This is where the balance is kind of shifting towards certain nations. And talking about Pakistan, how we see that, first of all, I just posted something that we need to design our data acquisition, data protection, data analyzing strategies. So this is the first thing. And then we need to step up. As Mr. J.L. Bloch said that we need trained people who are making these policies. If we have those trained people who understand the core of artificial intelligence, they will be able to contribute in those committees, foundation that are being established and make our a positive impact there. Otherwise we won't be able to add any positive contribution. We will be just kind of a spectators, nothing more than this, because at a top level we don't have people who really understand the dynamics of AI. Innovations is very important, but what type of innovation we are talking about? Four components. If you minus any of these four components that I'm going to tell, innovations can be a destruction. For example, privacy, security, accountability, and fairness. You minus any of these components from any innovation, that innovation will become destruction more than a nuclear power. And unfortunately, we are using these four names, but there are no way to make sure these four components are actually applied in any of the solution out there in the market in artificial intelligence. It is all about
Right,
getting
right.
the
And how these components are important when we talk about AI and diplomacy. Coming back to you, Mr. G.R. Baluch, we know that the US and China at this point in time are at the forefront of course, this race of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, both using AI for military and economic gains. How do you view the risk of AI arms race um, escalating to a broader geopolitical conflict?
Exactly. I mean, that is a danger and it has already started. In fact, the problem is that the future global competition could be for the AI because any global power which will control AI would control the world. We just saw a very small kind of a significant what scenario of what will happen the moment deep sea came in. What happened to the global AI stocks in the West? It shook it. So this was just a small trailer, if I use the word loose term. So I think there is going and there is already a undeclared war of a kind of global competition. The European Union has put in $200 billion. You said 100 billion. No, I think the overall investment in AI is in trillions of dollars. Elon Musk has put in trillions of dollars. Actually, I think he's put in about more than 500 billion. Likewise, Chat GPT people have already, I think, got from the market. I think they're making it into a for profit. That will be another like about 500 billion. China, we don't know how much is they're putting, but they are putting colossal efforts, colossal money. In fact, when the first meeting Trump held was with those three tech giants, and they died there. They said, "We're going to put you 200. We'll give you $200 billion to establish the infrastructure for the AI." So imagine the intensity of the competition between the global powers. So now, where do we stand? I think I would like to come there. See, in the summit, this AI summit was a very, very important summit. Obviously, we are not actors yet at that level where we could be sought as equal partners. Like India was there on the forum, France was there, we weren't there. So what we can do now? Now, what is the choice with us? We have to go to the people who are in the south, who are part of the digital divide. We already the world is divided into two, have and have nots. So now this digital divide will be further widened. So what we have to do is to get in collaboration with those countries which are kind of at this point of time on the receiving end. Malaysia, Indonesia, although they might be ahead of us a little bit, But I think we need to really, at the global level,
Right, right.
try
Of
to have
course,
this
there
kind of a
is need
collaboration with other
for
countries.
bridging the gap between have and have nots when it comes to AI as well. But Mr. Irfan, when we talk about artificial intelligence and huge data sets, there are concerns about privacy and data protection and they are increasing day by day. What measures should be taken to ensure that AI applications, especially in the domain of diplomacy, respect human rights?
See, there are certain things that countries can do individually within the country, and there are certain things that not single country can achieve it. Talking about global solution, we need to develop foundation and standards. And in order to develop those foundation and standards, it is very difficult in the world of AI to measure those privacy, security, and accountability and fairness factors. Need subject matter experts. If we want to contribute, if we want to make sure that within our country our data is safe and we are developing solution, fair solution, and there is an accountability structure in place, we need to adapt. We need to adapt at a rapid pace, not from bottom to top. I'm telling you, from top to bottom. What we are trying to do, we are teaching our kids, we are introducing new short courses, we are changing curriculum. But by the time this lot will be ready in the future, in 10 years, 20 years, it'll be too late. So this is the right time to inject the AI, inject the subject matter experts at the top layer who can really develop these policies that we can implement here, set a standard, develop an example, and then go to the world and show that this is what we have done, this is what we have achieved, and now this is what we need from you on an international level. We haven't done anything, we haven't achieved anything, we haven't initiated anything, there is no collaboration, there are no trained people. How we can even go and contribute in such big summits? So we need top to bottom approach, starting from collaboration, as Mr. G.R. said, starting from collaboration and developing our own resources. When I'm talking about developing own resources, I'm not talking about compute. I'm talking about human resources. I'm talking about talent. I'm talking about the standards and policy. If we don't do it today, then I'm afraid there will be a time when we will be actually far behind in the race.
Right, right, and that is not something we would be wanting for our future generation. But coming back to the point, Mr. Irfan, that you mentioned about AI Action Summit that was held last week in Paris. What were the key outcomes in your opinion from that summit? With, of course, we know that French President Macron announced 109 billion euro investment to boost AI innovation in Europe. So do you think how significant are these developments in your opinion?
Well, these developments are significant, but the question is positively and negatively. This is the major question. Innovation is going to happen, no doubt about that. But the question is, these innovations are going to impact the society positively, are going to create more chaos. So let me put it in a simple word. If we are going to create standards minus US, everybody is on the same page, it's not going to happen. If we are going to create standards minus China, everybody's other on the same page, it's not going to happen. What happening is all the big nations will have to agree on certain standards, and then as a result of those standards, any innovation coming into the market will be valuable innovation. We welcome that innovation, and that will impact the humanity positively, not the business side. Now the business side is gaining more benefits, not the humanity. So yes, there is going to be innovation, there are going to be significant impact, but the question remains, because there are certain countries who have refused to sign. So there are no agreement, there are no consensus. Until we achieve 100% consensus, the innovations are actually not kind of human friendly innovations. The threat is still there.
Right. Right. And Mr. J.R. Baluch, when we talk about this summit, of course, European Union is now using AI to analyze economic trends and making its own policies. Do you think Pakistan can learn some lessons, and how do you think we can utilize AI in economic trends and policies? And how significant, in your opinion, was this summit for developing countries like Pakistan? And of course, like you mentioned earlier, the gap between haves and have-nots was very much apparent even in this summit.
Yeah, I think this is an important aspect of this summit. That this is probably the first, I think, such a summit at the global level where what is the concept of what's called global governance of AI has been discussed. And in fact, it will be a good idea to share with our audience the six principles which were agreed during this summit. So I'll just go through them. I'll just read it out. Accessibility and bridging the digital divide, we already emphasized. Number two, ethical and trustworthy AI development. Number three, encouraging innovation and preventing market monopolies. Most importantly, if the monopolies are prevented, I think we have won more than half the battle. But if we fail in that, that's it, we have lost already. Then is the positive labor market impacts. The most, I think, dangerous aspect of AI is the replacement of men with a machine. So there'll be, the people without jobs. So we have to make sure that AI enhances our capacity, does not make people redundant. In fact, some of the crazy minds already thinking of what they call it post-human societies, where the humans are useless because they think that perhaps the future machine will be much smarter than us. And so, if you go by the survival of the fittest, they say only the smartest creatures can survive. So if the human beings become less smarter than the machine, we lose our relevance as the Ashraful Makhluqat. In fact, there's a spiritual, material, and heavenly also purpose in that. The next is environmental sustainability. Most important, that they are going to produce so much of heat, because we know that such a heat incentive, those data centers, they take lots of electricity. So that has to be also taken care of, that how much carbon they will emit while we also reap their fruits. And most importantly, last but not the least, is the international cooperation and a framework for governance. I think this is where Pakistan's role comes in, that we must chip in into international collaboration in evolving a framework for the global governance of AI as a new technology, as a future currency of power, if you will. Yep.
Right. And now we are joined in the discussion by Mr. Muhammad Ali Inayat. Welcome to the program. Mr. Inayat, when we are discussing with different dimensions of AI and, of course, its applications and significance in diplomacy and future of artificial intelligence, but ethical considerations remain an important aspect when we talk about AI, and transparency is also key ethical consideration. How can nations ensure that the black box nature of many AI systems do not compromise accountability, especially in diplomatic decision making and other institutional decision making as well?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Thank you very much for having me. You raised a very prudent question, for sure. I'll briefly try to answer that. If I have to sum it up in a very precise manner, I will say that all of the legislations and all of the declarations, including the one which had just happened in Paris, are basically focused on one single point, that is the data ownership and the ethical use of that particular data which is being produced by AI. That is the one liner. Now, coming to your question, if I be more specific on the South Asian region where Pakistan is based out of, there is a fundamental need, first of all, to have very clear and concise data and privacy regulations in place for AI to operate. We must understand that AI is not something which is new. It is for sure new for some of the regions and for some of us who has been exposed to this particular subject most recently, but this has always been around. And the issues related to AI are not new because the issues related to AI data governance are somehow a kind of a bigger picture of what the data privacy related issues are. So I will say that as far as the ethical use of AI or the ethical use of the overall AI evolution we are encountering nowadays is concerned, that requires the first step is to have very strong legislation around data privacy, and that needs to be done at a national level. And I would like
Right,
to
right.
update.
Legal framework
Yeah.
is the next step, but at this point in time, we see a huge technological divide between the countries across the globe. And with the launch of DeepSeek, that has challenged Western AI tools. Mr. Inayat, how do you view this development? And also, do you think that this is going to be helping countries in the global south, especially in our region? And what measures should leaders take to lessen the technological divide between the countries?
Very good question again. As far as the DeepSeek is concerned, and versus the OpenAI, which is coming from US, and DeepSeek is coming from China. So basically, I will rather call it more of a healthy competition. I don't take that as a war because you see, these tools are publicly available to anybody without any restriction of geography. So I will not call it a war. I will rather call it a very healthy competition which has come up. And before that, we have seen that competition in other areas as well. For example, the economy and the oil and the export and imports. But now the war zone is the technology front, which I see as a technology evangelist as a very healthy sign. As far as this is concerned, that how will it benefit? It will for sure create more push for countries like Pakistan to actually develop these technologies. And I would like to just quickly mark on this point and articulate on this point that Pakistan should not only become a consumer of technology, we should also think to innovate. And that is something which nobody is talking about, honestly. We are only talking about the consumption of all these technologies, but we are not talking about actually building something of our own.
Right, but what kind of infrastructure or what kind of facilities we need at this point in time to, of course, incorporate artificial intelligence or AI technologies in our diplomacy and other institutions?
I will not go into the details of that, but artificial intelligence is already used at a very high level in many institutions, public institutions. But as far as public use of AI for governance is concerned, I think that that is something also in the process. And there are so many applications of AI in diplomacy and in running a government for that matter. As far as uh, because I come from a background of cybersecurity and now I'm interacting with AI solutions as well. We have heard about the fifth generation war. What exactly
Right.
was fifth
So
generation war?
you talked about, of course, you talked about cybersecurity. So it would be very pertinent question for you to talk about use of artificial intelligence in military domain and for surveillance, because we have seen that it has been used, like you mentioned, for years and for ages in military domain. So do you think that we need some kind of regulatory framework in that regard as well? And are there some restrictions when it comes to sovereignty of nations?
Well, as far as regulatory frameworks are concerned, they are for the technological advancements which are brought into the notice of public. So when we are talking specifically about the defense sector, it's not mandatory for any country's defense sector to actually publicize whatever technology they are working on. So this is a kind of a niche where a strong governance framework may be required in terms of how you will govern the evolution of those technologies, because obviously the more sensitive the domain of application like defense, you need to have more control on the kind of applications and solutions you are developing. So I will say that the risk is more on the on the side of how do you protect whatever you are trying to build rather than regulating that particular area, because normally these things don't come into practical domains, and I'm talking from a very practical perspective.
Right, but don't you think there is need for some international regulatory frameworks, especially regarding artificial intelligence, so that it does not destabilize international security?
Yes, you're right. And there has been many efforts. I do understand that the Paris Accord was not signed by some of the countries, including UK.
Yes.
But in United Nations, there is a continuous effort to actually harmonize the use of artificial intelligence and the regulations which the countries are developing. And there has been a lot of progress in United Nations. So I must say that it's not one platform which is trying to unify all these legislations and frameworks. There are many stakeholders, including United Nations and the individual governments and the defense sector organizations, who are trying to somehow harmonize that. So I think that as the AI is also evolving, and especially for South Asia, it is in the very early stages. These regulatory changes will also take some time to appear on the front.
Right, right. Mr. Baluch, like Mr. Inayat alluded to the recent development that was that US and UK refused to sign a declaration on inclusive and sustainable AI. How might this decision impact global efforts to establish unified and ethical framework for AI deployment, especially in diplomacy?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a major challenge to the uh, framing of a global governance structure of AI in the future, because US at this point of time is one of the biggest players, and they intend to do more. In fact, President Trump has said it in not very in very clear terms that I want to make US as the dominant power for AI. So if that becomes the currency of competition, as I said earlier, then I think we are in for a very difficult time ahead. Nonetheless, despite all these differences, I think the rest of the world should come together as they have come during the Paris summit. There has to be, I think maybe there's one thing more which we have not discussed, and I did not see any reference, is the power of the civil society. That has to come in to put in its moral weight onto the states to make, first of all, AI open source as far as possible while protecting their research. At the same time, I think the other that should be some kind of a democratization where people share their experiences, and of course there are certain limits that need to be done. And I think you talked about, I think I like to really comment on cyber security. People like us who have so many other rivals around us, internal and external, I think the biggest challenge will be that how AI could be used against us. So I think we need to also make sure that our cyber frontiers are secure. And that will require innovation, that will require research, that will require collaboration. So I think there's a need for us to collaborate with our friends. China, we have a very good relationship. Why not? Let's like hopefully this time when the visit of the president of Pakistan took place, I think there was a talk of I think among the MOUs, one MOU was for the science and technological collaboration. So I'm sure that this collaboration will go forward. And even in addition to China, there are several other countries I mentioned earlier. Indonesia, Malaysia, Turkey, for example, is quite, I think, ahead of perhaps one of the actors which is using in its military
Right, right.
hardware as well
Inclusive
as in the
AI.
yeah
Right,
has to be there.
inclusive inclusive AI is very significant when we talk about underdeveloping countries. But Mr. Irfan, don't you think that this open AI could be very challenging in the sense that AI itself can become a factor in creating some pitfalls, and what pitfalls or challenges that might be when we talk about public communication or public diplomacy?
AI is already creating all those pitfalls, honestly speaking. And let me say that what we are seeing publicly, what we are seeing is just a tip of the iceberg. There is a lot more development that are not in public is happening under a certain radar. We need to be careful about all those things that are coming. And there are no infrastructure. If there is no infrastructure, and all those advanced, super advanced AI technologies are coming into the market, we can't even make sure that they're going to, in what way they're going to harm us. So basically, we are directly affecting with all these advancement, as far as we are missing all those legislation and everything that is now at the moment stuck. As I said in my previous session, that even if we minus one country like USA, and we create a collaboration amongst all other countries, still we won't be able to achieve that level of fairness in the technology where we can say that, all right, this is going to help humanity. So the question remains till the end, that whatever the innovation is happening, if this innovation, any innovation, contain four factors: security, privacy, accountability, and fairness, we can feel safe about it. Otherwise, this will definitely create a massive negative impact over the global collaborations and the impact. We have seen it in the past when there were so many countries working on a nuclear technology. Actually, the history is going to repeat with the different prospect. This time is AI is going to happen through the same cycle. Everybody is seeing their benefit, but actually it is going against the humanity.
Right, right. And Mr. Inayat, we have seen that AI has become integral and significant part of warning systems and different crisis simulations. How do you think Pakistan should be utilizing those technologies? And can you share some successful examples of utilizing AI in such scenarios where some conflict was averted successfully?
Yes. So before I directly go to the answer, I would like to highlight that there is another significant development which is actually contributing to the, if I may say, success of artificial intelligence adoption, and that is quantum computing. You might have heard that Google has recently inaugurated one of their quantum computers. And what it does with AI is that it adds up to a lot of compute to actually process the AI data. And with this combination now, as you were saying, that what kind of possible simulations can be there, any kind of possible simulations can be there. The answers to whatever is happening in space, the answer to what kind of environmental hazards can come in, this is already happening. So the compute and the intelligence are now coming together, and you can expect anything to be simulated very soon.
Right, right. And with AI, of course, analyzing such huge data, what should be the role of research institutions, in your opinion, in this regard?
Well, if your question is in particular for Pakistan, then I must say,
Yes.
yeah. So I must appreciate the role of the universities. They have taken initiatives to establish working groups. I have been part of some of them, and they are now trying to encourage the students to research in the subdomains of artificial intelligence as well. But a lot needs to be done at a government level. I will give you a very quick and short example that there is an institution called NAHI, which is responsible for educating the faculty of all of the public and private sector universities. So I I saw one of their recommended training list, and artificial intelligence was not one of them. I wrote a letter to them highlighting that please do include artificial intelligence in that, because there are 50 topics which have been suggested, but unfortunately not one of them is related to artificial intelligence. So a lot needs to be done at a government level, but I think that at a individual capacity, the universities are taking the right step, and the students are also showing a lot of interest in that, because we have no shortage, absolutely no shortage of talent, if I may tell you, but we need a little bit of infrastructure to support that talent.
Right, and we need to streamline all those, of course,
Correct.
facilities that we have. Mr. J.R. Baluch, you mentioned earlier about ethical guidelines that are necessary, and of course, transparency, accountability. In your opinion, what role UN and other such bodies have in, of course, ensuring accountability while utilizing AI systems?
Yeah, definitely. I think UN has always been arbiter in such situations where there's some kind of a global phenomena taking place. So AI is one such moment of history where even if that innovation is in certain particular region or a country, it is going to impact the globe. So I think UN as the guarantor of equality, humanity, rule-based governance. So I think UN probably could become, and I'm sure they are playing a role in regulating and coming up with a global governance framework. So I think WTO and UN should come up, but unfortunately, the two are being undermined by big powers at this point of time. In fact, WTO and the entire UN system is under stress. Under, I think, the worst crisis that can happen. So I'm a little bit disheartened that at this point of time, when UN was supposed to play this important role, it has been put under pressure by certain powers for whatever reasons they have. Those are political powers. But I think this summit is a very good starting point. I'm hopeful that such summits will take place, which will include the global south as well as the global north, where they can discuss and see how that digital divide can be minimized. How can those ethical standards achieved while innovation continues to grow as per the resources of each country which is involved in the innovations in the AI field.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Diyal Baloch, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Irfan Malik, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Ali Inayat, for joining us in today's program. That's all from tonight's discussion. Take care. Allah Hafiz.